So when we talk about repaying the kindness of others, our mind might get tight, kind of like, oh, that's an obligation. They're telling me I have to repay the kindness. I don't have a choice. It's not like that. Yeah, but it's rather when we really spend some time thinking about the kindness that has been shown to us and really considering how we couldn't do anything without others' efforts. Yeah. Then we really feel like, oh my goodness, everybody's been so kind in so many ways. And when you really have that feeling in your heart, then the feeling to repay comes quite automatically. Yeah, it's not an obligation, it's something that comes in your heart. And then you can choose how to repay the kindness. Somebody may want you to repay it in one way, but you may say, actually, I don't believe that's the best way for me to repay your kindness, or I don't have the capability to repay your kindness in that way. But here is how I think I can repay it. And so then you choose how to do it. Yeah, because, and we have to choose very carefully and very wisely, because so many people have so many ideas about how we should live our life. Yeah, and especially you could think about the kindness of your parents or the kindness of your friends or your teachers or whoever it is. And then, of course, your parents want you to do this, but your teachers want you to do something else, and your friends want you to do a third thing. And then you get really confused. Yeah, I want to repay all their kindness, but they all want me to do different things. And actually, I don't think I'm very good at any of those things. And, and so you really have to think, well, what really is the best way to repay the kindness of others? Because we can run around our whole life now doing this and this and this and this to try and please other people. But we're never going to succeed in pleasing them completely. Yeah, so that's something just to get very clear at the beginning. Forget about pleasing others, because no matter what you do, they're not going to be pleased completely. Yeah, you can make them happy for a short time, but you can jump through all the hoops you want to, but they're going to find something that they're not satisfied with. Okay, so then you have to think, really using your wisdom, what's the best way to repay the kindness? Yeah, and so here is where Dharma looks at things in a very different way than ordinary people look at things, because ordinary people look at repaying the kindness through the vision of there's just this one life. Yeah, so how do you repay kindness? You take care of somebody, you give them money, you entertain them, these kinds of things. But from a Dharma viewpoint, those ways of helping others, that's good, but it doesn't solve their ultimate problem, which is being under the influence of ignorance and afflictions and karma and being bound in cyclic existence. And so that's why, from the Buddhist perspective, the best way to repay the kindness of others is through being able to lead them out of cyclic existence into liberation. And in order to do that, we have to do that ourselves. And so then we have to really learn and practice the Dharma. Because otherwise people can say to you, oh, you just want to go on retreat. That's so selfish. You're just thinking of yourself. Yeah, well, if you're thinking of going on retreat just because, I can't handle the world anymore, or I really I think I'll sit and look at my belly button for a week. Then what they say may have some truth in it. But if you're going on retreat because you really see that you need to become a more together person so that you can really benefit others in the long term, that's not selfish. That's having a much broader view. Okay, to give a kind of an example that might make it clearer. Okay, so let's say your family is really short on money, and they say, oh, if you want to repay the kindness, go out and flip burgers at McDonald's and bring some money home because we really need some money. But you say, oh, but I'd really like to be a doctor. Kind of flipping burgers I don't feel has much meaning, and I'd really like to be able to cure people of their diseases. Right now I'm not capable of it. If I want to go into the medical profession, I need to go to school and take science courses, and then go to medical school or nursing school or whatever I have to do, and that's going to take some time doing that. Okay. Is it being selfish if you go and get more education so that you can do a career that you think is more worthwhile, even though your family may need money right now? Yeah. If you think it's really more worthwhile for the benefit of your family and for the benefit of other people, if you get the education that will enable you to cure people of their sickness, that's much more valuable than serving them hamburgers. Yeah? Okay, so even if there's a period of time where you have to go to school for a really long time and you're not bringing any money home, it's still worthwhile to do that, isn't it? Yeah, because for the long-term benefit, not only of your family but everybody else, that's going to be much better. Okay, so it's in the same way that in order to really cure people of the disease of cyclic existence, and cure the ignorance and afflictions and karma that cause rebirth, then we need to go to school, by learning the Dharma and practicing it so that we can know how to do this. Yeah, so that's not selfish to do that, because in the long run that will bring more happiness to our family as well as to all infinite living beings than, doing something that immediately they want us to do, like get married and have 2.5 kids and like that. Okay? So you think well about how to repay the kindness and what your particular talent is. Yeah? Because I think a lot of people nowadays spend their time trying to be what they think other people think they should be. Yeah? Oh, my friends think I should be this, then I'll try and be that. Yeah. But I don't really want to do I like some of the things my friends are doing, but I don't really want to do everything they think I should do, And then your parents want you to do something else, and well, that's okay, but I don't really want to do all of that either. And so then you get really confused, and well, who am I trying to please around here? And we realize that actually our motivation to please people is not a very pure one. It's not really because we care about the other people, it's simply because we don't want them to criticize us. So it's actually, we're looking out for ourselves. I'll do what you want me to do, just don't criticize me, because I don't like being criticized. So it may look like we're being kind, but we're basically looking out for ourselves. Yeah. So sometimes it takes a great deal of courage to be kind. And to really think in the long term what's best for people. If you have a relative that has a substance abuse problem, and they come to you for a loan of money, is it kind of you to give them some money? It's not kind. If you know they're going to spend it on drugs or alcohol, that's not kind. They may pressure you. Oh, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're this and that. I've done so much for you. Why can't you just loan me a little bit of money now? And they can pressure you and guilt trip you. But if you know in your heart that, wow, they're just going to go use it and get themselves plastered and maybe get hurt in the process of it, you know, that I can't partake in that. I can't participate in that. If I really want to help them, I can try and get them into rehab. And they may hate me for trying to get them into rehab. But actually, in the long run, that's the best thing to do for them. You know? So this is what I mean about really thinking about things clearly and what really benefits others. Yeah, and what is just trying to please them because we don't want to get criticized. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard because, you know, most of our life we've spent our time trying to please other people, but without really thinking why. You know, I don't know about you. It was usually because I didn't like to get yelled at. Yeah. In fact, apparently I said to my parents once when I was little, just hit me, stop screaming. That's how much I hated getting yelled at. Of course, they didn't hit me. I don't think I would have liked that much either, but, you know, my vision of a hell realm was somebody screaming at me all day long, you know? So, you know, we really have to think about, you know, what benefits others. And in a similar way, what really benefits us too. Because sometimes we just look at short-term benefit. We're not looking at long-term benefit. And it's really the long-term benefit that is the important thing. You know, because short-term benefits like this, isn't it? I mean, a good example of that is you get the urge to smoke or drink or overeat or take something that, you know, is super rich in cholesterol or, you know, like that. And it tastes good and you like it and it gives you some pleasure now. But you also know that down the line it's going to give you high blood pressure and increased risk for stroke and heart attack and lung cancer and everything. So then do you go for the short-term pleasure of eating that food or, you know, smoking or whatever it is? Or do you go for the long-term benefit of your health so that you can live for a long time? Yeah, and some people, the attachment to the short-term pleasure is so strong that they can't think about, you know, delaying that. And, you know, oh, I got to have a cigarette, and they have a cigarette. You know, I've got to get stoned, they get stoned. They can't, you know, they're not thinking in the long term, and they don't want to really oppose the attachment. Yeah? Whereas, you know, when we stop to think in the long term, and if we really care about ourselves and we really care about the people who care about us, then we want to have a healthy body and a long life. Because if we do, we can be of greater benefit to self and others. Mm-hmm. So then we eat in a healthy way and we take care of ourselves in a healthy way. Yeah? So it's a way of, you know, weighing priorities to see, you know, in the long term, what is really the best thing to do versus what's going to give me the most immediate pleasure right now. Making some sense? Yeah. And I think, I don't know about you, but when I look at some of the situations I've gotten myself into in my life, that it's usually come through making very bad decisions, and my bad decisions were very often based on my immediate pleasure and doing what I want to do right now without thinking long term. Yeah. So I did some very stupid things. You done any stupid things? Never? Oh, good. I'm glad. I think we've all done stupid things, haven't we? Yeah. So, okay. So that was just introduction. I wanted to come back and talk some more about karma, because I think understanding karma and cause and effect is really important, and it relates very much to this whole topic, because karma is our actions, okay? And what motivates us to act? Yeah, why do we act? It's because there's a motivation to act. That motivation exists within our own mind. So we don't say anything, we don't do anything, we don't follow a long train of thought unless there's some kind of intention in the mind. And so that's why looking at our mind is so important in Buddhism, and actually considered much more important than just giving our body pleasure. Whereas from the side of ordinary general society, giving our body pleasure is much more important than looking at what's going on in our mind. And so mostly in cyclic existence, in general society, people are taught to distract themselves and not look at what's going on in their mind. And we very happily distract ourselves. We have the television, we have our iPhone, and our iPad, and our computer, and email, and computer games, and your chat rooms, and, all sorts of things. Facebook, my goodness, you could spend all day on Facebook. We have a program each year called Exploring Monastic Life, and I remember one year one young man came to it, and as soon as the program ended, he was on one of the computers at the Abbey, which we don't allow, but I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" "I've got to see what my friends have been doing." It's like, I got to check up and, check Facebook and MySpace, and I got to see what all my friends are doing. And it's like, I don't know. Somebody showed me Facebook. I looked at it. I think it's awful. I mean, what people post on their Facebook is really so often really stupidagios, it seems to me, in my humble opinion. Yeah? So I thought, oh, you want to spend your whole precious human life, hearing that your friend ate a sandwich and and hearing that you think what Michelle Obama wore was really beautiful, or what this band plays is far out. Anyway, we very happily distract ourselves, and we have intention in our mind when we're doing that. We may not be saying the words to ourselves, "I'm going to distract myself," but the intention is, I want something that's entertaining. Yeah, I don't want to think about things very much. I don't want to really, partake of my life. I want to read about other people's lives. So we get completely lost in the media. I was reading an article yesterday on the web, but it concurred with several things that I've thought about. So one of the things, the title of the article was, do we have too much sensory stimulation or not enough? And the thing is, I think we have, in one way, way too much sensory stimulation, because we're constantly hooked in to external things that are calling for our attention, and we can't put them down. I look at on planes because I travel a lot. And people, they have their little reality that's this big. And when the flight attendant says you have to turn it off for takeoff, they do so at the very last minute with great reluctance. And as soon as the plane lands, they've pulled it out and turned it on again. It's like I've got to see what's happening because this is reality. And so much sense stimulation coming, and if you watch movies, I really see now, it's quite interesting. I can't track movies as well as I used to because when I was young, back with the dinosaurs, they changed the scenes, but they didn't change them quite so fast. Now they change the scenes much quicker. So I'm used to like having some time to absorb something before going on to the next scene or the next perspective. And now it's like this. And I see, the people are used to that. And they're, so much is coming at you and you learn to process it. Yeah. And multitasking, doing many things at the same time. But, whether you're really present for any of them is doubtful. So on one hand, we have this incredible sense load, okay? On the other hand, that affects the karma we're creating, because we can't sit and think and make wise decisions and set priorities because we're constantly distracted by stuff, But on the other hand, we don't have enough sensory stimulation in the sense of actually being present with what is happening now. Yeah. So you walk down the street and everybody's like this. Have you noticed? Even crossing the street, people don't look both ways now. They just are looking here. It's totally amazing. And you see a bunch of people at a restaurant, and they're all, the friends came together and they're all doing their own thing. But what they're not having a sensory experience of is what is right in front of them at this moment. So they don't feel the quality of the air. Yeah. Have you ever noticed how the air is different in different places? How the air feels different? Yeah. So just noticing the quality of the air, noticing the smells. Yeah, standing there and looking around and taking in the environment without being in a frenzy to change something. And especially in interpersonal relationships, we're missing the sense data of other people's body language. And so much of what we communicate is through body language, through how we use our voice. We're not getting that sense data, and that's actually very, very important. Yeah? So we're creating relationships online with real people who we don't really know because we've never been in their presence and heard their voice and seen their body language. Yeah. And we've never been in a space where we really feel what's around us and, take it in. Because we're just indoors like this. Okay. So I thought it was quite an interesting thing to see where our mind goes and how we're missing a lot of valuable sense data and at the same time getting overstimulated. What do you think? Does that make some sense? Yeah? Is it different? Are you having a different experience being here at the Abbey and being with the same people every day and talking to them than you do when you're on Facebook? It's quite a different experience, isn't it? Yeah? Are your conversations and your relationships with people here more in depth? Are they more satisfying than when you're on Facebook? Yeah, you can talk about stuff that's really interesting, can't you? and really build on each other's ideas and create something together in a conversation. Yeah, but that really means being fully present with where we're at, without part of our mind somewhere else. Okay? So how this all relates to karma is that where we put our mind and what we pay attention to is going to affect our intentions. It's going to affect our motivations, that we are getting constantly conditioned by our environment, and that conditioning affects what we want to do, what choices we make. Yeah? And our choices, our intentions, that's karma. Yeah? If I have an intention, I may not say to myself, I want to tell that person off, but I might be really angry and restless, and boy, what comes out of my mouth? Some really unpleasant words, most often to the people I care the most about. Yeah, but those words didn't come out by themselves. They came because there was an intention, and I wasn't aware of what was going on in my mind. I was disconnected, and I've been watching a lot of films with violence, and films with violence are going to encourage you to get angrier. I find it so interesting that they need to do scientific studies, spending millions of dollars to determine that, watching violent videos makes children, more prone to anger and violence. It's like, duh. This is, just look at your own experience. What happens to your own mind after you watch a movie with either a lot of sex or a lot of violence? That's where your mind goes, isn't it? That's exactly where our mind goes. You see a movie with sex, and then your mind starts, and then actions follow. You see a movie with violence, your mind goes, and then speech and actions follow. Okay? So, we really need to protect our mind. People spend a lot of time protecting their wealth. What we really need to protect is our mind. Because when we don't protect our mind, then we create a lot of negative karma that has bad repercussions for future lives. But it also makes a mess, in our relationships in this life. And the basic idea is we want to be happy. And we deserve to be happy. And we want other people to be happy. I don't think any of us really wants anybody else to suffer. We want to be happy. We want other people to be happy. So we need to know how to create the causes for that happiness. Yeah? And then if you know that doing certain things creates the cause for happiness, then you do it. And you're happy to do it. Yeah? So what we do really has an effect on the future. Excuse me. So I do a lot of prison work, and one of the guys that I was writing to, he's subsequently been released, but he was a really big dope dealer in Southern California. I mean, really big. He had 9 cars and a few houses, and he made a ton of money. And he got busted and got a 20-year prison sentence. But in the process of our writing, he said, because he had lots of time in prison to think about how he got there, he said, I can see that how I got where I'm at right now depended on decisions and choices that I made before. And he traced a lot of those choices back and back and back to even when he was a small kid, the thing that he, his parents would say or do something and how he responded to that, and he saw that, how he got to be a drug dealer. And it wasn't anybody else, but it was his choices. And he said, I never really thought about the consequences of the choices that I made. I just did things. Yeah? And I think a lot of us do that. We just do things. We live on automatic. We don't think about what we're doing. Thought comes in the mind, we do it, And especially when there's the opportunity for pleasure, boy, we go after it. No holds barred. Yeah? But we don't think about the results of our actions. And if I do that, what's the likely result going to be? Yeah, so 2 results. What's the likely result going to be in this life? And what's the karmic result going to be? And of these 2, the karmic result is the one that's most important, because the result of this life lasts a short time. The karmic result can last a really long time. Okay, so for example, we've all had people who criticize us, right? We've all gotten criticized many times, right? Yeah? So we've all gotten criticized. So what's our reaction to criticism? Sometimes we go and we feel sorry for ourselves, close the door, cry, don't talk to anybody. We become like an ice cube. Sometimes we get really hurt and angry. We show our hurt by being very angry and verbally abusive to somebody else, or, like that. And so at those times, are we really thinking about what's the result of my anger? And what is it I really want? Now, somebody, okay, let's take the example of somebody who you really care about, a family member or a very close friend, and they say something, criticizing you. And you get really angry, because we usually get the angriest at the people we care the most about. And then, what is it we really want? Yeah, we want happiness. And we actually want to be connected to this person, don't we? But what do? We yell, we scream, we slam a door and don't talk to them. Is our behavior accomplishing the purpose that we want? Is it helping us get connected to the people we care about? No, it's creating the opposite. That's this life. Then we're uttering harsh words and so on. What's the karmic effect of that? Yeah, well, in terms of our rebirth, it's not going to be a good rebirth. And even when we're born human beings again, we're creating the cause to receive more criticism. Do we like receiving criticism? No. So why are we creating the cause for it? Because we're not thinking. Because we don't understand what are the causes of happiness and what are the causes of suffering. And we somehow, in our ignorance, and you can really see how ignorance operates, we think that by yelling and screaming, we're going to bring the result of happiness. But it doesn't, does it? Yeah? And so this is also our national policy. Yeah? We're going to balm you until you do things our way. It's not bringing the result we want. No? So the same thing with other people. We may attack them thinking that, that way we'll stop their harm. But actually, when we attack other people in retaliation, what are they going to do? Are they going to say, oh yes, you're right? No, they're going to retaliate back. And then we find ourselves in this situation like this, when what we really want to have with the person is a good relationship. Yeah? Are there people like that in your life? Yeah, that you want to have a good relationship with? And you're like, huh? So it's, we're not thinking about the result. The short-term result, the long-term result. Yeah. So does that mean when somebody criticizes you that the alternative is you say, you're right, and then you completely do backflips trying to please that person? No, it doesn't mean that either. Okay. But if somebody criticizes us, we can look at the criticism and say, okay, I'm not going to think about the tone of voice and the body language of the other person. I'm just going to look at the data. What did they say? Is it true? Is it not true? If it's true that I did what they said, why am I getting angry? They're telling the truth. Why do I get angry? I should own it. I'm always saying I want to improve myself. They're telling me what I did that needs some improvement. I need to say thank you, and I'll think about it. And then, do some introspection and try and improve my behavior. But why get angry if what the person's saying is true? If the person criticizes us and accuses us of all sorts of things that we didn't do, why get angry then? What they say isn't true. It's not true. Why get angry? Yeah? Talk to them, give them correct information. Realize that, they're all roiled up themselves and they don't really realize what they're saying or doing. But we don't need to take it personally. Okay? So then, you have a situation in which somebody criticized you. If it's true, you work on it and you own it. If it's not true, you don't get angry either. Yeah? But then your mind is clear. And then you can think, okay, what is going to be a constructive action to do in this situation to bring about the harmony that I want with this person? Yeah? And so by subduing the anger, it clears our mind, so then we can think of how to communicate with somebody to achieve the goal we want and they want, which is to connect and for both of us to be happy. And so then we may speak pleasant words, or we may say to somebody, let's talk. And then we listen to what they're saying, and we also explain to them our feelings and needs. Okay, but we're doing it with a good motivation, a motivation of kindness, and we're doing it with wisdom. So it's going to bring a totally different result in the present and also in terms of future lives. Okay? So, we're creating karma all day long. And that's why we try and be aware of what's going on in our mind all day long. Because we have the opportunity within each minute to create the cause for happiness or the cause for pain. Yeah, the opportunity's there in each minute. Nobody else can control our mind. Nobody can make us think something, They can condition us, but we don't have to buy into it. Okay? So, understanding about karma can be really useful. Now, especially if we understand the long-term results of something, then it can really help us refrain from doing harmful behaviors now. So especially when, we're tempted to lose our temper and, to say, well, what's the result of that? Well, to get criticized more myself, this life and future lives, and to have a miserable rebirth. Do I want that result? No. Okay, so then maybe I better figure out another way to deal with my anger besides dumping it on other people. Okay. And then we start a very creative process of, that's where meditation practices can be very good. What meditation do I need to do to calm my mind down? And then we learn how to become a doctor to our own mind. Yeah. That's why Lama Yeshe wrote this book, Becoming Your Own Therapist. Yeah, you learn how to work with your own mind when your mind's upset. And we learn to have compassion for ourselves and not criticize ourselves when we make mistakes. But knowing, I want to be happy, I'm ignorant, and so sometimes I create the cause for unhappiness. I regret that. But I'm going to learn from it and go on. And so we don't beat ourselves up and feel guilty about it and get into a whole big self-recrimination thing, because that also is quite unrealistic. I made a mistake. Let's see what I can do to fix it up. Let's do some purification and learn from it and go on. And if we do that, then in our life we really keep on top of things. We don't let emotional stuff build up and build up and build up to the point of just exploding, or until the point of, growing old with this sack of bricks on our back of all of our emotional hurts and pains and things like that. Becoming a bitter old person, which certainly isn't any fun. Okay, there's time for even a couple of questions today. Do you have any questions or comments? Yeah.
I had a question about yesterday's teaching, and specifically about cause and effect and karma and the functionings of it seems so practical and really it makes sense, especially when I think about there not being a creator God or not being someone in control. Mm-hmm. But then I get really confused about how something like a multiplying mantra operates, or like how is that even, like that seems like back to magic.
Okay. So there's some things that seem, we don't understand their dependent arising, how they work. Yeah. So how would saying a mantra at the beginning multiply your good karma throughout the day?
Right.
Yeah. So I can't say that I understand that perfectly myself, but it seems to me that when we say the mantra, we're thinking, why do we say that mantra? Because we value good karma. Yeah, we realize that creating good karma is important, that merit is important. We want to amplify our merit because we understand that, it's the cause of happiness. So I think something about our intention is actually helping to, when our intention is motivating saying that mantra. And so those two things together is what multiplies the merit. Yeah, I don't think if a tape recorder said the mantra, much would happen. Yeah, but we have some feeling that, this is, good to do.
Yeah, and yesterday I was getting really confused because I thought, well, if you can do a multiplying mantra, why wouldn't you do a dividing mantra for your negative actions?
Well, you can do the dividing mantra for your negative actions is when you do 35 Buddhas or Vajrasattva. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's helping you to counteract the negative actions. Yeah.
I've just been thinking about how, as a kid, or at least a young teen, I remember saying I don't believe in karma, and I didn't know it was a Buddhist thing at all. People kind of use the term in a strange way, I think, in our culture. And then at some point, again, before I was into Buddhism, I started thinking, well, I steal or something. If someone steals from me, can I really say I didn't deserve that? And it's just, I find it really strange that in our culture, we can see that if you practice a sport, you're good at the sport. If you go to school, you get a degree. But then karma, we act like it's magic, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is cause and effect, and then we use the word karma, and we have this like weird sort of feeling about, well, I'm not into that mysticism sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
these thoughts that I'm churning.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're quite right. In fact, His Holiness Dalai Lama sometimes says, we flippantly say, oh, it's karma, when we mean, I don't know. Why did that happen? Oh, it's karma. No. Whereas if we really thought about it and what karma meant, then there would be something to it. Yeah.
I was also going to say, I think some of my friends confuse karma with like determinism, or like things are just
Right.
like that's your karma.
Right.
You're stuck with it, which I think is sort of
That's not true at all.
not yet.
Yeah, that's not true. Because, whatever we've done in the past can be counteracted and purified if it's a negative karma. Our virtue, we rejoice. One of the 7 limbs is rejoicing at our virtue. So we increase our virtue that way. So karma is not cast in concrete. It's not fate. It's not predetermination. Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's this deep intention that's running through our whole life, which is the intention of finding happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these more surface intentions, like when we intend to hurt somebody
Mm-hmm.
because we think that will bring us happiness. I'm just wondering, how does that work? Do we have 2 intentions? Or they seem contradictory, so then how is it possible to have 2?
Yeah. Well, I think, the underlying feeling is, I want happiness, not suffering. Okay. But we don't understand what the cause of happiness is and what the cause of suffering is. So, why do people kill other people? Because they think somehow it's going to make them happy. That's ignorant, isn't it? Yeah. It's quite ignorant. But that's how ignorance works, is it blinds us to what the real causes of happiness and suffering are. So often we behave in the exact opposite way. Yeah. So our underlying wish is happiness, but the intention with which we act is often confused, very often confused with ignorance. And here in particular, the ignorance that doesn't understand karma and its effects, that doesn't understand that our actions have an ethical dimension to them. Mm-hmm. And so one way, when you really understand this in your own experience and you look at some of the things, it's like, boy, why in the world did I do that? And just then you begin to see how your own ignorance functions. Then when you look at other people who are doing reprehensible things, then you think, look how under the sway of their ignorance and their attachment and their anger they are. Because I see this in myself, and that's exactly the process going on. And then, instead of hating the other person, you can have compassion. Doesn't mean you allow them to keep doing that, but you have compassion for them, because you understand.
I think just my thoughts on Naveed's question about having 2 intentions. Speaking from my own experience, like I mentioned, I've stolen, I've gotten in fights, I've screamed at people, and I always thought it was going to make me feel better if I didn't have 2 intentions. So yeah, I would start a fight with someone and think I was going to end up feeling much better, and I just end up with a crooked nose,
Yeah.
feeling any better. So I don't think that anyone ever intends to be unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
even in harming others especially.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, let's sit quietly for a couple of minutes and then we'll dedicate.